All right, our next step, sculpting the butt. So we're going to learn about how to do that. It's a major two muscle groups that you want to make sure that they are separated and that you're not creating a unibutt, okay? So, the packets are something you should have out at all times, and your image of your figure is really going to help you determine to see how the body is positioned, especially for mine, especially when I get into the torso. Obviously, I can't see the image from behind, but I can kind of make an idea of like how the butt might be positioned due to my own muscles and how she's laying out. So this one's going to be up a little bit higher. This one might be a little bit lower. So the first thing that you are going to do to sculpt that is you're going to be making basically an outline of the two muscle group forms. I'm so sorry, I forgot to talk about the first thing you need to do. After you are done building the legs, you absolutely have to build up the hip area where, you will see like where your two legs kind of come together at the wire. That's where your hips are. Okay, so you have to build those up first before you can even start sculpting the butt. Another thing is the crotch area. You have to close that up a little bit because it's like way up here where the hips are. So when you're doing the wrapping, you're just gonna kind of wrap around the leg and then just all through that area to build it up. Okay, so it definitely has a flatness, and now I need to work on this back spot. So when I create that, I'm just going to use my plaster strips and kind of make a tube almost with it. I kind of twisted it up a little bit. So there's like my first part of that shape, okay? And then I'm going to just wrap it back around to make sure, that I have, the right shape and that it's not coming together to create one large hump here. So I kind of have that right there. I'll do another one right here, and again, this one's going to be a little bit lower because of the way that she's stretching her leg out in the picture. So if you're having challenges determining how something is positioned in comparison to the picture that you chose, try to do it with your own body. Do the stretch or the movement with your own body to see how your muscles would be positioned or placed in that, if you were in that stance. So obviously this is gonna look weird at the beginning. So kind of, the two muscle groups. What I'm gonna do from here is kind of make just like ball pieces to build up each cheek. So the midpoint will be your tallest point, and it will round, down and up everywhere. Okay, so I'm just gonna do it a little bit because I don't want this video to get too long. I can continue to make rings and keep placing them in the center there, or like I said, kind of like some ball pieces just to get some thickness in those muscle groups. All right, so I'm not gonna go too much more into that. Obviously, I'll keep building up. I wanted to talk a little bit about the torso. So the first part of the torso, which is what I have already completed, is wrapping the torso, layers to build up the thickness. Okay, so you wanna build up the thickness here. If I keep wrapping that, it's just gonna look like a circle. So once you have an okay thickness, and I might need a little bit more because this person is fairly skinny, I am going to start just adding on the top and the bottom of the torso, or sorry, I should say the sides, because my position, but the sides of both the torso. So I'm just gonna point out on my image how the body flows here. So you can see that it's pretty horizontal as she goes here. It climbs just a little bit up, but a lot of the torso is more on this side where her leg is stretched out, okay? So when I create the torso, again, I've wrapped it maybe like 6 times because you really do have to build this spot up. Once I finish wrapping, I am going to just make some folded up rectangular or tube-like pieces and place that on, you know, the sides of the torso. So I just want to point out too, because I've been getting a lot of questions, you are sculpting your figure like it has a leotard on, not like it has clothes or boxing gloves or any of that. That can be something you sculpt later, but think about a gymnast, and it's up to you, like what you want to add for the torso. You can do a muscle structure with the abs if you want to do pecs, or having like a little bit of meatiness to the chest if you want to portray like a female. That's up to you. But you can see I built this up all the way, you know, to a good proportion. So the waist is going to be the skinniest part, which is, if I were to drop my elbows down, would be where that spot is. It's pretty much halfway in between the lower part of the neck to the middle, you know, where the legs come together. So it will gradually get skinnier here. So this is the widest point, gets skinny, and then it tapers back out to the upper arm. And you can see my butt here that I created. I did look at some of the back muscles or bone structures, so the spine and the shoulder blades. The last thing I want to show you on this video is how to make what's called a smoothing slurry of plaster. So what you want to do, so I've showed you guys how to dip your finger in the water, dip your finger in the loose plaster, and smooth it on. This is so you can make a lot at once, or I shouldn't say a lot, but a little bit at once, so you can smooth a larger area and you don't have to keep going back and forth with your finger. So when you're mixing plaster, you always want to start with water, and you can see I have very little in here. I might even use less. But what you're going to do is take the loose plaster and pour it in. What you can see is that it's absorbing into the water. And what you want is for it to create like a little island on the top, and to stop absorbing. So once you see that island kind of form, then you can start mixing it. So this is definitely too much. I would never need this amount unless I was doing like a larger sculpture. So I could share with, you know, my table member. But this, you can quickly just go over their body. If you have some larger areas to fill in, if you have some larger areas to fill in, like maybe there's indentations or dents, you can use the plaster and kind of build it up so that you're filling in those spaces and making it look nice and clean. So that's all I'm going to show you today. Obviously, let me know if you have any questions.